Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're really going to dig into the core price action stuff you need for volatile markets.
Yeah, especially thinking of crypto, right? Where things move incredibly fast.
Exactly. High volatility, lots of, well, let's call it noise. And our mission here is kind of cut through that. Forget those vague chart lines everyone draws.
Right. We want to look at where the institutional money, the big players, are actually making
Their moves. So things like understanding supply and demand zones properly, spotting key reversal signals, like engulfing candles.
And maybe most importantly, how to manage risk so you don't get completely wiped out by those sharp moves. It's about defense, too.
Okay, let's start there. You mentioned ditching simple support and resistance lines. Why is that so critical in crypto? Well,
Because those simple SR lines, they just get sliced through constantly. You see these huge wicks in crypto. They blast right past those levels. So we need something more robust. That's where supply and demand zones, S&D, come in. Think of them as wider areas, not just a thin line.
wider areas. Yeah, like a buffer zone.
Exactly, a buffer against that volatility. It's where significant buying or selling actually took place historically by the big institutions. Gives you better zones to potentially trade from.
Okay, that makes sense. So if they're not just lines, how do we actually find these zones? What are we looking for? You mentioned patterns like rally-based drop. Sounds a bit technical.
It sounds technical, but the idea is simple. It's about seeing where institutions likely stepped in. So for a supply zone where selling pressure was high, you look for that rally-based drop.
Just break that.
Price rallies up, pauses, that's the base, and then drops hard. That pause, that base.
Yeah.
That's likely where big players distributed, sold off their positions before the price fell,
Got it. So the base is the key distribution area.
pretty much. And conversely, for a demand zone where buying was strong, you look for a drop-based rally. Price falls, pauses in a base, then rallies strongly.
So if the institutions accumulated, bought up during that base before the push higher.
Exactly. That base shows accumulation. These patterns reveal the likely footprints of institutional action.
All right, so these zones show us the potential battlegrounds where institutions acted. Now, how do we pinpoint a moment to act? That brings us to candles, right? Specifically, the engulfing candle.
Yes, precisely. Candlestick patterns give us clues about immediate sentiment. And the engulfing pattern is a really clear two-candle reversal signal after a strong move.
Okay, so what does a bullish engulfing look like?
It shows up after a downtrend. You get a red candle, then the next candle is green, and its body completely swallows the body of the previous red candle.
Engulfs it.
Right. It's a visual sign that buyers just stepped in forcefully, at least for that moment.
And the bearish engulfing is the opposite. They are sellers.
Yep. After an uptrend, you get a green candle, then a larger red candle whose body totally engulfs the green one. Signal sellers took control, again, momentarily.
Momentarily being the key word there.
Absolutely crucial. This is the big caveat. These patterns alone don't give you a reliable edge. They're common.
So you need more.
You need confluence. That's the term we use. Seeing a bullish engulfing pattern form right at a confirmed demand zone, that DBR zone we talked about. Now that's interesting.
Okay, combining the location, the zone, the signal, the candle, that improves the odds.
Dramatically improves the probability. It's about stacking factors in your favor.
That makes a lot of sense, especially because, let's be honest, the market seems designed to fool retail traders sometimes. Those volatility spikes.
Yeah.
They feel like traps, liquidity sweeps, right?
Oh, definitely. Institutions often need liquidity, meaning they need orders to fill their huge positions. And sometimes they sort of engineer moves to get it.
Like a bull trap.
Classic example.
Yep.
Price pushes just above a known supply zone, triggers all the stop-loss orders people place.
It's right there.
Taking out the sellers.
Exactly, grabbing that liquidity.
Yeah.
And then price reverses sharply downwards. They hunted those stops to fill their own sell orders.
Okay, so if the obvious levels, like right above supply or below demand, are hunting grounds for stops, where should we never put our stop
Loss.
Right there. Never put your stop loss right at an obvious support or resistance level. That's like painting a target on it.
So where do we put it for better protection?
It needs to be logical based on market structure.
Yeah.
Generally below the prior swing low if you're buying, or above the prior swing high if you're selling.
But there's always a but in trading.
Well, in volatile markets like crypto, just picking the swing high-low might not be enough. It could still get tagged by a random wick.
So make it dynamic. Yes.
Use something like the average true range, the ATR. It measures current volatility. Maybe you place your stop, say, 2 times the ATR value away from your entry.
So that adjusts. Wider stop in wild markets, tighter when it's calm.
Precisely. It adapts to the market's current behavior, giving your trade room to breathe without getting stopped out
By noise. That systematic approach feels much safer. Which leads us to the bedrock, the absolute rules for managing your capital.
These are non-negotiable, seriously. First, you absolutely only trade with money you can afford to lose, period. Don't risk rent money.
Obvious but critical.
What else? Risk only a small percentage of your total trading capital on any single trade. The standard advice is 1%. Maybe 2% absolute max if you're experienced, but 1% keeps you in the game.
So even a string of losses won't kill your account.
Right. You need to survive the drawdowns. And finally, always aim for a good risk-reward ratio. Minimum 2 to 1.
Meaning you're aiming to make at least twice as much on your winners as you risk on your losers.
Exactly, because you will have losing trades, that's guaranteed. Your winners need to significantly outweigh your losers for you to be profitable long-term.
Okay, let's recap. We've talked about finding institutional footprints with supply and demand zones, using signals like engulfing candles for timing with confluence, and building a defense with smart stop placement and ironclad risk rules.
It's about putting these pieces together, understanding the probabilities.
It seems the biggest edge isn't some magic entry signal, but actually having that discipline on the exit. Knowing when you're wrong and getting out according to your plan.
That's probably the hardest part, but yeah, the most important.
So the final thought for everyone listening. When you set your stop loss, when you decide how much to risk, is that decision based on hope or is it based on a cold, hard, non-emotional plan? Something to think about.